welcome to another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space. I am your host, Derek Fosbender. We are here with Kiamarie Stone, and we're going to be talking about the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the A to Z, everything that there is to talk about running a wedding photography business. So Kiamarie, you have a ton of experience. Kiamarie just finished telling us how, we were talking before we went live about you've been shooting weddings for the last 12 years, and this is the first break you've had.
This is 12 years I have been non-stop. I literally think I've shot almost 1,000 weddings. I'm not even lying. And our last wedding was in January. It was January 5th. And we haven't shot anything since. And I can't even tell you how this has just been such a nice, welcomed break. Like, redo my website, even though my blog isn't up yet, hire someone to do it, catch up, like get albums out to my couples. It's just been so amazing. I'm loving this. I know it's hard on some people and my heart goes out to them for sure. But for me, it was much needed.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like, I've thought the same thing about my own work. And it's like, almost like you feel guilty for saying like, I've used this. This has been a blessing in disguise, because there is so much pain and people going through so many hardships with this. But I think it is something to be, for people should not only look at it as a negative thing. I mean, you were able to spin it into something, not only just a mental break for you, but business wise, we're able to get your checks and balances done on a business end at home. And we all know, for those of you who are working photographers, freelancers, a lot of your everyday work is, or if, when you're not working, you're working on other stuff.
Yeah, you're always working. When you're a small business owner, you're always working. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're a photographer, if you shoot families, weddings, pets, you're always working. Because if you're not shooting, you're editing. If you're not editing, you're answering emails. If you're not answering emails, you're like looking to do marketing and you're on your social media and you're trying to put yourself out there. So there's really not a downtime. There's not, Monday through Friday, and then we have off Saturday and Sunday. You're literally always working.
Exactly. So I have to ask, what got you into photography? And
I love this question.
When you first, I feel it's like so generic. It's like a first date question. It's so bad.
No, I love this question. I think
it's important. Yeah, I mean, it helps before we're going to get to where we're going, to know like what initially motivated you. Like when you first started out, did you, I always think it's interesting to hear, well, I wanted to be a Nat Geo photographer and now I shoot weddings and I love it. So where did you start?
Okay, so I'm going to now disclose how old I am.
I got you beat, I promise.
I graduated college. I have my master's in teaching. And I went and I started teaching, and I was teaching 4th grade. And I was a ton younger then. And, when you're right out of college, everyone starts to get married because they're at that like mid-20s. So as teacher friends of mine would get married, I'd go to their wedding and I would just snap a few photos here and there. And then I would post them on my MySpace. This is how I'm saying.
There you go. You just dated yourself.
So, I just dated myself. And people would contact me and be like, oh, you took, XYZ's pictures. How much would you charge me to do my wedding? And I'm like, I don't shoot weddings. I just, snapped a few pictures. But then after so many people started to message me on MySpace, I'm like, wow, I could possibly do this as like a career. I already love taking pictures. I was that geek in high school that like worked for the yearbook, and like every time there was an event or a dance, that was me taking the photos. So once that so many people started to hit me up, I'm like, you know what? Let me really look into this. So I said yes to a few people. Of course, I way undercharged. $300. I'll come shoot your wedding. Yay. So I set my expectations low. I thought it was the best thing in the world because as a teacher, you only bring home $600 a week. So I started taking a few here and there. And then what happened was word of mouth picked up, because back in, MySpace days, there was only MySpace. There wasn't Facebook. There wasn't Instagram. There wasn't Twitter. So your word of mouth was golden. That was the way that you got your name out there. So as people just started talking and I started posting more on MySpace, more people were calling me and I was booking more weddings. And then I was making mistakes and figuring out, okay, I did this. I can't do this next time. This is what I need to do for this. And then I started to realize quickly that I was actually bringing in more shooting just 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday, than I was working Monday through Friday at my regular teaching 9 to 5. So it was kind of an easy decision just to transition into it. Probably the biggest thing I had an issue with was, wow, am I supposed to leave my cushy 9 to 5 and my pension and my health insurance to take like an unknown chance if I'm going to make it? At the time, it was a man's world. There weren't women photographers that many. And then there weren't women of color photographers. So it was like, I was really going to be like, it was either going to be a hit or miss. I was either going to win at this or I was going to lose, but I was willing to take the chance that I had to try. And then I resigned from teaching. It was like the spring of that year. So it was in March I left, which, was frowned upon in the education system. I luckily kept just my word of mouth up there, and everything else is just like, it just fell into place. All of a sudden, I was a wedding photographer and I was self-taught. Like I didn't take classes. I didn't go to school for it. I literally just trial and error, messed it up, realized what I did wrong, and then never did it again. So I am a wedding photographer technically because of MySpace.
Wow, that's great. I totally resonate with the MySpace thing. I'm like hearing about it. I'm like, oh man, the background and the music on your page. And
and you had your top like 9 friends, and then if you were mad at somebody, you moved them down.
Can you imagine if we had that now? It was like, man,
there'd be so many wars.
If I don't follow somebody back, it's like I get a text, a phone call, a voicemail screaming at me.
Same here. I have thousands of photographers. Even people for tonight were contacting me from Africa, like excited to be here with us. And if I don't like their page or join their group, they get offended. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but I just can't be in everybody's group.
Exactly.
Then your feed is just so like congested.
Do you find yourself drawing inspiration from people that come up in your feed, or does that affect your vision in any way?
Actually, Nikon asked me this too. To be honest with you, I really stopped following a lot of photographers because I started to compare myself to them. Like, oh, they're in Paris shooting a dream wedding, or they're over in Greece, and why am I not over there? And I was kind of like comparing my success to their success, which was wrong. I see that now because we were at different points in our career. So I stopped following those people that made me second guess myself. And I started following people that encouraged me more. Gary Vee, Tony Robbins. I joined a Christian women's group. Like I try to now be around women or just leaders that push positivity or talk about your health and just being, the best you can be for your family and your business. So I really don't have a photographer that I follow and I emulate to be like. I do love, of course, like Jose Villa, Kiamarie. Like I love that film look, Julie Paisley. But I don't necessarily follow them all too much. I follow you guys.
I think it's an interesting perspective because a lot of times, especially when you're coming on as B&H and you ask somebody that question, they almost feel obligated, like they have to give a photography. So it's refreshing to hear Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, and people that have no relation to photography, where it's really you're drawing your inspiration that's from somewhere completely unrelated to the field that you're making your money in. Yeah. But that in some backdoor kind of way is feeding your inspiration and your motivation in the field that you're working in.
Yeah, and I try to encourage people that I mentor too, because they automatically start to compare their journey to my journey, and it's completely different. And then I tell people, we all start somewhere, and just because you're not there now doesn't mean if you keep at it, you won't be there eventually. And the one thing I see a lot with photographers is that they try to be like somebody else. So let's just say they take my workshop, and then all of a sudden they have to do my style, which is light and airy, or all pink as their aesthetic and their theme. And as much as that is flattering to me, I always feel like everyone should be their own creative. And however it is that what they're producing speaks to them, like speaks to their heart, then put that out there. Like, don't try to be like anybody else, because like the reason why my clients hire me is because of me. Like, you have to set yourself apart from basically other photographers, because even though I think you should be friendly with them, at the end of the day, they are our competition.
Your competition, exactly.
Yeah, and I think you should be cordial and nice and friendly, and you see people out and mingle, but at the end of the day, don't aspire to be like them. Learn from them, you know, get wisdom from them, but try to develop your own style.
No, it's a great point. And I wanted to come back, because when we were talking about your early stages in transitioning, I think it's in the MySpace days. I want to go back to MySpace.
Okay.
Because I think it's so relevant, that transitional period. And anybody who's ever thought about taking the leap, it's great to hear from somebody who's actually done it and been successful in doing it. Yeah. And I think 12 years in, you know, one would be hard pressed to say that you haven't been successful in making that transition, because you're here right now. How many weddings were you shooting in that before you made the jump? So while you were still working as a teacher, how many weddings a year were you shooting? And I ask it the question that way because I know from a lot of my viewers and the people that I see, our audience, it gives them something tangible, something to aim for, not to hold them to, but say, you know what, Kiamarie only did 3 weddings in a year while she was making that transition from full-time teacher to full-time photographer.
Right.
And it kind of lets them know, but you know, you don't just have to say, walk into your job and say, guess what, I'm not coming in tomorrow or ever, I'm out.
Yeah, right.
And at the same time, it's not like a 20-year plan where you're like, all right, I'm going to do 1 wedding a year and then increase it by a wedding a year until I'm shooting weddings at the age of 75.
Right,
so
right.
What was your transitional period like?
Yeah, so I kept working for a good 9 months, and I was taking on about 15 weddings, because I had Monday through Friday teaching, and I only took weddings on Saturday and Sunday. That was year 1. Then year 2, I booked almost 35. So about 20 weddings in, I said, you know, I have to pick one or the other, because I wasn't spending any time with my girls, my daughters. When I saw that I had enough bookings for the next year, so I had 15, then I had 35, and then year 3, I had 50 booked. I said, okay, I think I can comfortably leave. And that's when I resigned. I do know people that quit and jump right into it. Unless you have at least 6 months worth of an income to fall back on, I don't necessarily saying jump in head first. Gradually transition. And then once you are free of that 9 to 5, take as many as you want. And then eventually you'll learn your pricing, and then you'll price what you're worth. And then what will happen is you won't have to take as many, because then your pricing will elevate. But I definitely think that first year, more than 15 with working a full-time 9 to 5 is too, more than 15 is too much. 15 and under is a good enough amount.
So you're stretching yourself too thin, and you can provide quality work while
and you're overwhelming yourself. And then what happens is you're no good to anybody. You're not a good parent. You're not a good business person. You're going from working all week to shooting these weddings, and then you're aggravated and annoyed, and you're being mean to your clients and their family and their bridal party. You should never want to feel so stressed out that people get on your nerves, because that's the best, happiest day of their life, and you want to be your best self for them. So when you feel like, I don't want anyone to ever just like dive in and then they go and then they have no income, but I don't want someone to overcrowd themselves while they're working and book 75 weddings, because then they're going to overwhelm themselves, and then they're going to hate what they're doing. And
exactly.
Yeah, and that's the work. You don't want to hate. You want to have a job where, like, I love my job. I don't care how many weddings I shoot. They're all the same, but the storyline is the same, but the characters are different. The scenery is different. The love story is different. And like, I'm always so excited every time I go to each one of my couples because I never know what that day is going to hold for me. So I want everyone that I speak to, even everyone that's listening to us or whoever I mentor or who takes my workshops, I want you to love this. Like, I don't want you to do this simply for a paycheck. It's great that we get paid, but I want you to love it because it's so rewarding. Like, it really, when my mom passed away, most of the people at her funeral were my brides. Wow. I have very little family. And it was just like, it was amazing to me to see how much love they had for me. And it kind of blew me away. And that's when I realized, like, what I'm doing for them impacts them to the point that they're in my life forever too, you know? But yeah, so gradually transition. I'm getting off the point here.
Wow, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, 15 and no more. And then when you see you have more booked going forward, by all means, jump right in.
What do you find for people that are starting out is the best way? Now, we talked about word of mouth, how it's great, but I feel like, and again, this is coming from a street photographer who is in wedding forums. Like I said it earlier in a workshop. I'm like, I'm part of wedding forums because I gain stuff from wedding photographers. And sometimes it's nice to just be a fly on the wall and listen to how other industries work and, you know, how to deal with people. And I believe it or not, I use that in my own work. But one of the things I do get as an added bonus to being in some of these wedding groups on Facebook and wedding forums is everyone talking about, you know, you're in competition. Word of mouth isn't always enough to defeat the competition. Sometimes you got to get a little more aggressive with your marketing strategy. Right. And then you get into like advertising and, you know, you have these, the Knot and Wedding Wire and all that. And it's like, so it's all daunting, right? And for somebody who's starting out, you know, we're talking about like the ABCs, we're talking to people who are trying to break it down to the simplest faction of, you know, making your impact in the market. Can you give a little bit of insight on, I'm just starting out, word of mouth isn't really doing it. I want to, if I'm going to spend money and spend time and effort investing in an aspect of my business to better, you know, stand up against the competition, is there a good place to start?
Absolutely. So you need a portfolio. You need images. So that means that you need to find a way to get those pictures. Second shoot, third shoot, assist. So that means you're going to find photographers, wedding photographers, well-established wedding photographers in your area who need help. I always need assistance. When you come on, ask them, hey, do you mind if I post, I'll say I was shooting for you, but do you mind if I post some of those images that we took at the wedding on my own account? I always tell whoever's shooting for me, third or assisting, by me, go ahead, because I'm all for them being able to start their own business. Once you have somewhat of a portfolio, you have to post it. You have to share it. You can't just put it on Instagram and put it on Facebook and think you're golden. You need a website because we all know Instagram and Facebook crash. We had that, remember that whole day we had no access to them? So you do need a website. So once you establish a relationship with an established photographer, build your portfolio. Once you get a few images, start your website. Once your website is up, start posting to Instagram and post to Instagram every single day. Show up. Even if you have nothing new to post, archive a really good picture and then repost it. I mean, unless it has a lot of likes, you don't want to get rid of it, but you can repost old stuff. And then you need to educate yourself. So that means attend workshops, get a mentor, go to conferences. I do workshops all the time. All you have to do is just learn even the basics just to make yourself like a little bit better. Take another workshop, learn another skill so that as you're like growing and assisting and shooting and in the real world situation, you're also working on all your technical abilities too. So I'm not saying this is a mistake that a lot of people make. They sign up for the Knot and Wedding Wire, although I love both. I love both of them. If you don't have $2,000 to spend, then don't. And don't pull from something else just so you can advertise, because that's not a given that you're going to profit from that. Use your free resources. Again, your website, your Instagram, your Facebook. And also, I know, like you just said, not so much word of mouth, but you do put yourself out there. If you know you have some hot friends, ask them, hey, will you guys get dressed up? Let me take you out to a park and do a little shoot with you. Use them and then start posting them and showing them. And I'm telling you, once you start, like my Instagram, you should see my DMs. I literally have people from all over the country that ask me, what are my prices? How do they hire me? Like what lens were you using? Social media now is golden, and you guys are so lucky that you have it. Like, it's just a beautiful tool, and it's free. So definitely use those.
I wish my DMs looked like that. People asking, how much money am I going to give you? Completely. I'm over here in right field. So I'm hoping that you don't hate me by the end of this, because I'm going to keep just throwing questions at you, because I'm using this as, it's interesting for me to pick your brain, because like I said, you've been around a long time, and there's a lot of the stuff that I see floating around. And I always wonder, as a non-wedding photographer, if I were a wedding photographer, that's something I would want to know. Yeah. And I see, and it's recurring. I'm sure you see the same thing, recurring questions and themes that people are asking in wedding groups, in wedding forums. So I'm going to give you the wedding photography business version of the what's more important, the glass or the body? What is more important? What is more important? I told you you're going to hate me when we finish this.
No, I'm just trying to, go ahead, please ask.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
I'm starting out.
Okay.
What is more important when you're first starting out?
The lens or the camera body?
Well, that's the analogy. See, now there we go.
All right.
But I'm gonna ask you the wedding photography business version of it, which is, what is more important, the business end or the taking photos? Because I see a lot of people out there that are great in business.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them. I'm horrible. It's like I'm horrible. I feel comfortable with my images, but the business end, no. And then there's people that have beautiful work, and it's like, yeah, I'll do your wedding for $150 and buy me dinner. And you're like, dude, no, like, look at your work. So what do you think is more, if somebody's going to make that initial investment in, either taking these workshops to make themselves better, or if they're just investing in workshops, do you invest in workshops from a business perspective, or workshops from a perspective of learning off camera flash and learning how to use multiple sources?
This is such a great question. Unfortunately, my answer is neither. They're both equally important. One's not more important than the other, because you can be an amazing photographer, but if you don't have business skills, you're not going to survive. And you can be an amazing businesswoman or man, but if you can't take good pictures, your business is not going to survive. So you need to equally know both. You need to equally juggle both. And a lot of people don't realize that the photography part of this is like this. The business part is like this. And we are more like presidents and CEOs than we are photographers. I'm in my home office, which isn't this room, but I'm in my home office more than I'm at weddings. So you have to know and learn the business side in order to thrive. And that's why, unfortunately, and I hate this statistic, but most photographers don't last past 5 years. And it's because they did not properly run their business. That means we have to pay taxes. We have to register. Are we going to be a sole proprietor? Are we going to be an LLC? Are we going to be an S corp? Like, we need an EIN because we need a business checking account, because the money that we bring in isn't supposed to be going into our personal account. We need to pay taxes. What taxes are you supposed to be paying? What are you supposed to even be taxing? These are all things you need to know in order to have a successful business, because then you're going to fail. You're going to say, I think $500 is a great amount for me to charge for a wedding. But then you're going to see, oh my gosh, I promised them a wedding album. That's 150. So now my profit's only 350, but I had a second shooter. And even though they left early, I promised them $100. So now my profit's only $200. You don't want to be walking away from working all day and have a small profit. You want to make sure, again, going back to business, you're even pricing yourself right, because you want to be able to succeed and you want to make six figures and you want to make that consistently. So in order to be a great photographer and remain a good business, you have to have both. And I have taken classes. I've taken off camera flash classes. I've taken marketing classes. I've taken business 101 classes, because you can never stop learning. Even 12 years in, like, I still learn something new every time I take a class. Like for instance, we never were supposed to tax digital. Anything digital downloads, they get on their gallery and your clients download their images and you charge them $1,500. It was just $1,500. Now the law has changed in New Jersey and now you're taxing that. But if you're not in sync with your business and the business laws for your state, you're going to get in trouble at the end of the year. So you have to know both. I don't think photography or business, one is more important than the other. That's what you meant, the glass in the body.
Ladies and gentlemen, I threw her a curveball. I threw her a curveball and she hit it 450 feet over the wall, dead center. So I'll give you an applause on that. You see, couldn't catch you off guard. We do have a couple questions that rolled in. So somebody asked, this is a great question.
Okay.
Early on, how are you not terrified of missing important shots, having the wrong settings, lighting wise? Is it less pressure? Does it work? Less money you charge, the less pressure?
No. Actually, it's weird because when I first started, I was charging next to nothing and I was scared to death. Every time I actually went to Barnes and Noble and I bought a few books, and that's how I learned posing. And then I went to a local photographer's workshop. It was just in Freehold, and I got to actually pose like real couples and models. So I got to see the difference. And to be honest, I was okay posing people. I was petrified of posing bridal parties because I was like, oh my God, there's so many people. How am I supposed to like put them in a straight line? Am I supposed to arch them? So I really went on Pinterest, because Pinterest was big at the time. It still is big. And I would make a little folder on my phone of all my favorite shots. Nobody cares if you're shooting and you take out your phone for 2 seconds and look down. And that's where I drew a lot of inspiration from, because I definitely was nervous those first, like, I'll probably say first 20-ish weddings. Like, oh my God, how am I supposed to pose them? But then the more that you do it, you become a creature of habit. And literally I could pose a couple and a bridal party 70 different ways in 60 seconds or less, and with my eyes closed, because it's literally like riding your bike. You keep on doing it and eventually you don't fall.
Wonderful. Now, Thomas is asking if we can share some groups, so maybe some photography groups out there or workshops.
Yeah. Well, workshops, not right now, because we're all in.
There's everything's online right now. Is there? So do you have a spot? Like, is there on your website, or are you doing any online?
I have a photography group. It's called Photography Darling on Facebook. Can I type in the chat box too?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. If you guys just check down in the chat box, Kiamarie's going to type some stuff in there.
That's mine. And then I do Darling workshops quarterly. And I was doing one in Vegas every year, but now that I'm a WPPI speaker, I'm not allowed to do them anymore. Yeah.
Well, and I'll give a shout out if there's anybody from Better Together, Central Jersey, that I'm part of.
Oh, I used to be in that group.
Yeah, that's that's how I met a lot of people I know are in there. So it's interesting. But look, Facebook groups in particular, and I guess any kind of forum, it's like you get in, it's great to just join a bunch of them, and again, Thomas, take this with a grain of salt. You're not listening to the Wedding Pro here. But what I found is with anything, it's like, don't listen to me. Filter this out. It's like going to a gym. Try it out. If you don't like it, guess what? There's 500 other gyms. And I think some of these groups, it's all, you might get in a group and you're like, wow, it's just a bunch of angry, disgruntled photographers in here, and all they
That's
do
why
is
I left a lot of the groups. Yeah.
yeah. So what's a good outlet? Is there a good outlet for people to where it's more based on learning and less based on my clients are all jerks?
Yeah, so actually that's why I started my group, Darling Photography Darling, because I was in a lot of groups on Facebook and people were really mean to each other. Like forgetting, dude, you started in the same spot this person is now that needs help. So I didn't agree with that a lot of times. And then I saw a lot of photographers who felt entitled and you couldn't ask them anything. And then if they commented about something, it was really kind of like harsh. So
Hmm.
I started my group because I was just sick of that. And I was like, if you meet me in person, I've been out to the space, to the event space, but I don't think we've ever met in person. But
Hmm.
I want you to be able to approach me. I want you to be able to ask me anything. I want to show you that I'm established, but I still have kindness in my heart for you. And I was where you are. And I want you to be where I am right now. So that's why I started my group, because I just knew like I needed a place for people to be able to ask questions or get advice or post even like a problem that they're having without being attacked. And sometimes in the other groups, I'm not going to even mention them because I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but I see that happening a lot. Another group that I really love is the Rising Tide Society and Styled Shoots Across America. Styled Shoots Across America is an amazing group if you're trying to establish a portfolio, because they do a ton of workshops throughout the year all over the country. So if you know you want wedding pictures for social media, for a website, for anything, you can join Styled Shoots Across America, and then you'll just look out for the next shoot in your area. Of course, you have to pay for them. They're not like astronomically expensive. They're like $150, but then you walk away with tons of content.
Well, I think that's something that's an important dynamic to go into right there is paying for education. I mean, for professional photographers pay for these things too. It's not like we're
Yeah.
once we become a professional, we're willing, people are willing to just give us education for free. And a lot of people don't make that initial investment in themselves. So
Right.
you have people who, well, $2,000 is a lot for a workshop. Well, $2,000 is a lot for a workshop, but not if you can take that $2,000 workshop and then start charging $10,000 per wedding.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the most I ever paid for a workshop was $2,500. However, I learned off camera flash, and this was about 7 years ago, and I still use off camera flash and the techniques that I learned at that workshop at every single reception, every single wedding. Every time my couples ask me for a night shot, I am still using what I learned. So in order for you to be able to succeed, there are some places you're going to have to invest. And you can't look at it like, oh, I just spent so much. You have to look at it like I spent so much, but when I learn that skill, it's going to pay me back tenfold. Same thing
Exactly.
with buying your cameras. You invest in a camera, but you have that. I've had my D4, like now there's D5, D5S, Nikon's like throwing cameras, and I'm like, I still love my D4, and they get mad at me because I give them, when they like want an image from me, I give them an image from my D4, and they're like, Kiamarie, that's an old system. Use a newer camera, because they want you to buy the newer cameras. And then I have to go take my Z7 and like reshoot and then give them pictures from that. But you have these things with you. So whatever it is you're investing in, classes, even if you buy a book or there's so many great creative live classes. Like whatever it is that you're learning, you're taking that with you.
Mhm. Now, what's your advice for people who, I'm guessing, I'm gonna announce this publicly. I have
Okay.
shot a couple weddings. I'm
How
not
many
proud of
weddings
them.
have you shot?
I've shot about 4 or 5 in the past. Horrible.
That's amazing.
They're so bad. The pictures aren't amazing. And and so this is coming from like a deep place of like regret, this question. You have the wedding and you have everything set up with the bride and groom, right?
Yeah.
They hire you for your style, they hire you for your aesthetic. You get to the wedding and everything changes. Suddenly it's my day and it's like, well, we hired you for a light and airy style, but now we want you to do dramatic and moody. And how do you, I mean, how much bend is there? Because I know a lot of people, they worry like, well, you know, I want to do like me, I stay away from weddings because I know it's somebody else's special day. And I'm a snob in that way. It's like, I want to do what I want to do. And I don't like the idea of you hire me for my style, and then I show up that day and now we want everything done this way. How do you approach that?
Actually, that doesn't happen to me.
Of course, see? If you are out there listening and that has happened to you.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because I have purposely branded myself where the clients that now hire me for my style. So they expect film looking light and airy, lower contrast, more brightness. They don't care if the sky is blue. They like blown out skies. They're hiring me for that. And that was one of my things I wrote down to tell you guys. You want your clients to want you. Like, they don't care what your price tag is because they love your style and they love you so much that they're willing to pay for you. Same thing if you're going to buy coffee. You know that Dunkin' Donuts is okay, but if you want really great coffee, you're going to Starbucks. Or, and I'm not offending anyone who has these types of cars. If you have an okay car, you have a Honda. But if you want a really great car, you're going to get a Lexus or a BMW. So you want to be that BMW. You want to be that cup of Starbucks so that you have clients that won't ever change on you or argue with you or offend you or expect something of you that isn't even you. You don't want to have a style and then your client wants you to be another photographer with a different style. So I've branded myself purposely that my clients that hire me already love my style. So that doesn't happen.
See, and
sorry.
And my Honda that's sitting right outside on the street outside my building would be so offended right now. No,
I bought my daughter a Honda. I have a Lexus, but I did buy my oldest daughter a Honda.
Nothing at all. Look, they're both reliable. Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it. But that doesn't happen to me. And I don't want that to happen to you. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to, or anybody, I don't want you guys to walk into a wedding and then all of a sudden they say, oh, we'll do XYZ when we talked about ABC. I want them to want you and want you exactly the way you are.
What's one of the biggest mistakes or missteps, or maybe something that Kiamarie now would go back to MySpace Kiamarie and tell her about?
How much time do you have?
What she should change? Keep it under 3 hours. I got a bedtime.
My biggest mistake was budget brides, which means that I was devaluing myself and I wasn't charging my worth. And I was having brides and grooms hire me that didn't value photography. They just wanted someone to capture their day. And then what I realized with those budget brides is they wanted everything for nothing. And they were the ones that were the nastiest or complained the most, or didn't even respect me and my team. And then I would see the way they would treat their families and their bridesmaids or their bridal party, and they were just very nasty. And I quickly realized after having about 2 years of budget brides that they weren't my client. That's when I rebranded and I started to put myself out there to people that I knew were more like me, that valued things the way I did, maybe shopped at the same stores that I shopped at because I knew we would have similar personalities and then we would get along better at the wedding. So having the budget bride mentality where I had to underprice myself just to get the job was my biggest mistake.
Okay. And how long did it take for you to find your niche?
So probably year 1 and 2 were my all over the place, finding myself. And then year 3 through now, it has been amazing. And then every year it's actually almost getting better to the point where people just want to book as soon as they email me, which is like beyond me because I used to have to do a song and a dance and a backflip to book a wedding. Yeah. So yeah, I've had about 10 great years, but the first 2 years were a little rough, and it's going to be like that. And you just have to have the strength and you have to establish that not everything works the first time, and you have to give it another chance and another try, another go at it. You can have 10 bad weddings, but then you shoot that 11th wedding and the couple was amazing and you walked away with the best tip. That's what's going to keep you in it, and that's what's going to make you want to shoot that next 11.
Okay. Now let's talk assistants.
Yeah.
It's a loaded topic.
Okay.
What do you look for in an assistant? Is it something where, do you recommend that everyone who looks to get in, kind of like people interning for a studio photographer and that's how they want to get into studio photography? Do you recommend that? Shooting as like a second shooter or second shooter assistant?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my second shooters are not my assistants. My second shooters are my second shooters. My third shooters are my assistants, and then I actually have an assistant. So the third shooter is, I'm now shooting more film. So my third shooter is really shooting a lot of what I want to make sure, in case my film doesn't develop, I want to make sure somebody else got that. So my third shooter does that. I also let them kind of shoot what they want, because again, I let them build their portfolios because I absolutely believe in helping people grow. And then my assistant is just my assistant. She gets us drinks. She fixes my brides and grooms' hair, or if a chain is, out of place, or maybe a bra is showing. Like, she literally does all that. And once you can get to a point that you can build a team, it's a better environment, and it's fun, and it's calming, and it's easier. And then your couples appreciate it more too, because you're like a unit and you look so professional and everybody's together. And I always accept assistants as long as they will email me their portfolio and I can see that they're trying and aspiring. I'm more than happy to take them on for the day. Some of them say, oh, I'll work for free, but we still like tip them and stuff, because I just feel like they've been with us all day long, so we should. But I definitely think if you're really trying to get into weddings, find that great photographer in your area and offer. I wouldn't suggest second shooting, because you really need to take on posing and being alone with the groom, or, doing different angles that the first photographer expects of you. And that's a lot to take on if you haven't done a lot of weddings.
Okay. But, so you're saying there's more responsibility attached. So a second shooter pretty much has to be a standalone decent photographer who represents the style of the primary.
Exactly. The second photographer should be that good that if I passed out and something happened to me, they can take over.
Gotcha.
So definitely, if you're just starting, offer to assist, which means you'll be that third shooter or an assistant, because some of us have a third shooter and an assistant. It just depends on who it is you're reaching out to.
Is that something that's common? I mean, I would think if I were a wedding photographer and somebody came to me and I had a second shooter and somebody comes and says, well, I'm looking to get into it and you don't have to pay me. Hell yeah, be my assistant, come around. You're getting experience and I'm getting, anything you're offering is providing me something, because I'm not relying on you for really anything.
Yeah, I get it all the time. I probably get about 10 to 15 requests a week.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't like when people email me and they're like snooty or cocky, or like, you should hire me because I just like when they're just natural and like, I'm just trying to get into it. And I really, I just got my first camera. Like they're excited. I like that. So I love bringing them with me. It's fun. It's like it's definitely a refreshing thing for me as well. So yeah, definitely don't take on the task of being the second until you can feel comfortable enough to be the first.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't really, it kind of just came to me and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But you don't often hear of, unless it's a more established photographer that already has like a collective or an actual business that's employing other photographers. You always hear that second shooter, but you don't hear about other little, no other assistants running around, unless, like you said, it's a big business, because they're taking a cut of your income at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I actually have 7 people that work for me, and I can send out 3 teams per day. So nice. If I'm booked, I can book 2 more weddings. And if the brides and grooms are okay with having somebody else from my company, I can send out 2 more teams.
Is that generally an issue? Do you have people that like they want to guarantee you? Are you able to guarantee?
Yeah, I mean, 75%ish of my couples want just me, but the other 25 are okay with somebody else because somebody else from my company has already shot a wedding that they know.
Okay.
We've been around for so long now.
You vetted them. You wouldn't take them under your company name if it
Yeah,
wasn't somebody that you approved of.
exactly. And if you guys go to my website and you just go to the about section, you can actually see my whole team. I'll put my website back up there again.
There you go.
Even my daughter is on there because I've been training her since birth.
Oh, nice.
My youngest daughter.
That's great. I'm doing the same thing. My son runs around the house. He's got a little like Ilford disposable, and every day at 7 o'clock, he's been running to the window and taking pictures of the fireworks. So
Yeah. Oh, and we have how do you prepare workflow? What does the typical back end work look like? That's a
post
great question.
production. What do you use? You're a Lightroom person?
Yeah, I'm a Lightroom and a Photoshop person. I use Lightroom
Okay.
more. So as soon as we get home from a wedding, the very first thing I do is back it up. I back it up to 3 places. I have 2 externals and then one goes into the cloud. I hear photographers that only back it up once and then they erase their cards and they go on and do the next wedding the next day. Absolutely do not do that. You have 3 backups and then you take the cards you were using and you put them down and you don't touch them again until you've processed those images. That way you will never lose a wedding. There's no way you're going to lose a wedding or somebody's special, most important day of their life if you have the originals plus 3 extra copies. And my externals, I just get at Staples. There's not anything special. Like I think one is 5 terabyte, the other one is like 4. So 2 externals, one goes in the cloud. The cards come out of our cameras and they physically get put onto my desk and they're not touched until I process the images. I do not cull because I am so hard on my photographers that now they get so much right in camera. They don't shoot anywhere past 1,500 images. So I don't get back 3, 4, 5,000 images now from photographers. Which you would need to pull now into Photo Mechanic and go through and take all the bad ones out or keep all the good ones. So I have my team to the point now that we get so much right in camera that we can literally just pull our images into Lightroom, combine them, and start editing. So I don't have to cull. I may just pull it up on the main library view and just like see a few test shots that weren't too good. And I just simply uncheck them and then I import them. I used to import with a preset I made and then it applied to all the pictures. But then I realized I'm Nikon, some of my shooters are Sony, some of them are Canon, and it just didn't flow well. So what I've been doing is sorting by camera and my images get that filter and then the other half of whoever shot Canon that day, I have a Canon preset for them. And then, I don't edit as anymore. I've actually trained my office assistant to do that. So she will go through and she will straighten the images, whiten teeth, take out blemishes. But we physically do look at every photo. Okay. And then for me, I like to add a little sun and stuff like that. So that's when I'll pull it into Photoshop. I literally pull it into Photoshop from Lightroom. I never leave Lightroom.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? So I can export, you can just click on and edit in Photoshop. And then once I'm done with it in Photoshop, I close it out. It saves it at the end of my film strip in Lightroom. So I do work in both.
Okay. For somebody who's starting out and doesn't have an assistant to edit, I think something I always run into that is a daunting task is you have the bride who then comes back to you and is overly demanding with images, or like, how can you give us a quick 101 how not to get steamrolled by your clients?
Yeah, so you have to set clear boundaries from day one. So if you have that bride that's like, take out this and take out that or add that, or I didn't like the way my hair was falling on my shoulder, and I've had that before. Like they had curls, but the one curl wasn't curled right. So you have to let your clients know right from the door, we will absolutely retouch or edit anything, but there is an additional fee. Okay. We do general retouching, which is exposure, blemishes, teeth, and what's our other one? Oh, straightening, because I hate that tilt. But if it's anything additional, like maybe she went tanning and she doesn't like how tan she is, like anything really out of the box, fixing that curl for me was one of them. It's an additional charge. For me, it's $150 per hour. And then I just send it to retouchup.com, to be honest with you. But you have to set parameters before you do anything, because if you don't, your clients will take advantage of you, and they will give you an image and then you can edit it and then they'll give it back to you 5 more times. You do not have the time to be editing and editing and editing and not paid for it, because every moment you are sitting at your computer is a moment you're working, a moment you're away from your family, a moment you're away from your pets, and you need to be paid for it. You need to be making at least $100 an hour or more, or you're wasting your time. So right in my contract, it says additional retouching. It outlines what it is and it has the cost, and they have to actually initial that. So when they do come back to me, that problem bride that wants her curl fixed, she knows she's paying me $150 to fix it.
I'm asking these questions and I'm hearing these answers and I'm like, I'm not cut out for this. It's a business. It's like a Shark Tank. It's like, man, I get to go out and take pictures in the street and I don't have to worry about all this. And it's like, there's so much that goes into it, regardless of the creative aspect, and setting yourself apart. So right. I guess actually while we're there, how do you set yourself apart? Everyone's taking the same workshops.
Yeah.
You have everyone, and it's not only just from a photographer's standpoint, it's from the brides. What are the brides looking at? The brides are looking at these magazines. They're looking, I want this. They're putting together mood boards. They're sending you Pinterest pages.
Yeah.
How do you, if you want a work that's not just going to be generic like everyone else's, how do you stand apart, but yet still make yourself marketable?
Yeah. So I actually, I rebranded. When I rebranded, I actually redid myself too. I know that's a weird response. But I started posting more on Instagram stories. I started posting more of me and my fiance, of my dog, of my kids. So right off the bat, people relate to me and then they feel comfortable with me. And once you like somebody, it's a lot easier to hire them. So I actually stripped being Kiamarie photographer, and I just was Kiamarie. And once I started being more relatable and presentable, people started flocking to me, which was weird. So I think that once, I see a lot of photographers that are just so businessy and so stiff, and you don't know anything about them. But me, people will say, oh, Kiamarie loves pink. Kiamarie has a white dog. Kiamarie's mom passed away. They know me, and I let them know me, and I let them into my life. So when you can figure out that this is your brand, you have to realize your brand is not just your work, your body of work. Your brand is also you. So everything I do is consistent. The way I dress, the way I talk, the way you can approach me, how I'm always pushing being kind to one another. So I just put more of me in it, and then literally people just responded to it, which was really good.
So we had another question come in on the ratio of men to women. Where is it at now? I mean, we talked about the past. It was male dominated.
What's the question?
The ratio of men to women in the photography industry for wedding photography.
More men.
There's a lot more women now.
There is more women now. But you know what the great thing about that is? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sarah, for saying this. But women actually like hiring women.
What? This all right. I was waiting for you to finish your thought, because I was going to say this whole thing doesn't make sense. Women, a wedding is a woman's day. I'm sorry. For any guy who disagrees, tell your wife to go in the other room.
My fiance was here, he would say the same thing.
It is a woman's day. It is and I gotta say it quiet, because I screwed up on the wedding photographer for my wedding. And whenever my wife hears me talk about it, she's in the next room. She screams at me because I had one job and I screwed it up.
Oh God.
It is a woman's day, right?
Yeah.
So how is it male dominated? Wouldn't you think more women would pick women photographers?
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you why. Because when it comes to men, you guys are amazing. You have the best eye, and your guys are more technical. You guys are superb, but you're not friendly.
We're cavemen.
emotional beasts, right? We want you to compliment us. We want you to get us. We want you to relate to us. So, like, even for my own wedding, I knew right off the bat I didn't want a man photographer, because I wanted someone that was going to be just as silly as I am on the wedding. And it makes me so mad because there's so many amazing, great male photographers. You guys, if you would just like loosen up a little
Be a
bit,
little more sensitive. So what you're saying,
you guys would like, because that's, I think, the reason why women are starting to dominate wedding photography, because we're getting into that age now where everyone is like so social and so talkative and so sharing stuff guys don't usually do, you know? So you just have to be like, I'm not telling you to come out of your skin and be somebody you're not, but when a bride wants to talk to her. When she wants to chat about all the things, whether you care about it or not, chat with her. When she's excited that she found the perfect calligraphy person that's going to address her wedding envelopes, you'll be excited about that calligrapher. And that's just something that men lack. And I think that, I'm telling you, there's so many amazing male photographers. You just have to figure out how to stop being so technical and just like adhere to the
more emotional
beast that a woman is.
So what you're saying is I can't come out of retirement and shoot your wedding.
I already have my photographer.
Does he need an assistant?
I over the years I've had guys on my team. I have one now, Steve, and you guys are just amazing. Like the stuff that my second photographers that are guys, like they give me back, their candidates blow me out of the water. They're just so good. But like when it comes to, like, I used to mess with them, like, go pose the bride. They'd be like, like, just, we're not gonna bite. We're not gonna bite. And I think that's the problem just with like women now, like even I have same-sex couples, even the guys are hiring us. Like, it's just that you just have to be a little bit more relatable and kind of take the businessy side out of it and put more emotion into it. But I definitely don't think men do better than women or women do better than men. It's just sometimes women prefer women just because we're understanding and, you know, we get it.
I think there's something to be said for that. And I know I'm probably going to get a bunch of hate mail from male photographers that saying that, you know, gender doesn't have, I just think, it's a woman's day. Women understand that. They know what it's like. You can capture, like, a baseball player is going to go capture a baseball game differently than someone who just doesn't care about sports. You have that passion, that emotion. So that being said, we are wrapping up our hour here. This was great. I think we might have to make this a weekly thing. I'm just going to throw random topics at you.
There was one thing I wanted to mention.
Yes.
You have to make sure when you're doing getting into this more that you have contracts in place and you're invoicing, and you need good systems to do that and stuff like that. So I use HoneyBook. I didn't mention that. Okay. I have some really good discounts and stuff from sponsors that I'll put in the link, but you can't just be all over the place. You have to have a system in place. So definitely look into something. I know there's more out there than HoneyBook. I think Tave is another one, but as you're getting into the business side of things, file for register, file for an LLC or a sole proprietor, get yourself a business account separate from your personal account. Make sure you get a website. Definitely figure out who you want to use for invoicing, HoneyBook, whoever it is that you want to use. And then what was my last thing that I wanted to say? So go ahead.
No, what about an accountant? Do you reckon, like, is that early on?
I have an accountant. Definitely, if you can't, accountants are expensive. If you can't afford an accountant to maintain your books all year long, QuickBooks Online is amazing. And you can maintain that, and it's like $19 a month. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, when you're out and when you're doing things and when you're interacting with other people, especially if you're starting to shoot weddings and you're going to venues, be kind to people, because if you're somewhere and you piss somebody off or you're rude, they remember you. And I have a lot of venues that have put me as their preferred photographer just because I was kind to them. So don't get flustered and just be nasty, because everything we do is everyone is watching that. So I wanted to put that out there too. Like, always try to present yourself in a professional way. And whatever it is you're going through, if you need to take a second from that day when you're shooting, take a second and walk away. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't take it out on your clients or venue staff. It's super important.
That is definitely a great lasting impression to leave on people. And that goes for if you're working in the industry as well, talking about other photographers behind their back. It's a very small industry. No. It's very tight knit. People talk. The same way that you can piss somebody off, a client, that they're going to talk to all of their brides. I mean, as we know, people get married in clumps, you hit that age where it's like, oh, damn, I got to go to 30 weddings this year. Like, all right, I guess I'm not going on vacation.
I've had weddings where I shot one bride and then 4 or 5 bridesmaids at her bridal party. So that's why I'm saying, when you're out there and you're shooting, everyone is watching you. Your next client is watching you. So just always remember, you cannot be successful in any business that you do if you are not nice to people, and you are not kind to people, and you are not approachable. You have to be on point 24/7. Whatever it is your issue is. I had to bury my mom on a Thursday. I had an Indian wedding that Saturday and Sunday. Was it their fault that my mom passed away? Absolutely not. Was I absolutely torn up inside? You betcha. But it was her and his day, their only day that they were going to remember forever. And did I get into my car after shooting for 12 hours? I did. And did I cry my eyes out? You can bet I cried the whole way home. But she gave me the best review ever online. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters, that you were the best you could be for somebody's most important day.
That's great. Well, Kiamarie, thank you so much. For everybody here is in the webinar, and for those of you that can't see it on Facebook, kssphotos.com/sponsor-giveaways.
Yes, and there's some great ones on there. Camera bags, definitely Honeybook if you're looking for a way to properly keep track of your clients, invoice contracts, all that. And there's a few other things up there.
Perfect. So you guys have her website right there. So, and again, I'll just say that kssphotos.com.
I mean, you guys, while you start to post, really think about your aesthetic. So that means that you want to be consistent. You want to post pictures that are similar. I post according to season. So right now in New Jersey, it's spring for us. So I post spring shoots, cherry blossoms, tulips, stuff that's outside gardening. And even though we're in a lockdown and quarantine, it doesn't mean your business stops. You're still posting. You're still open. You are still available, because 2021 and 2022 brides are booking. So you want to make sure that you're seen. But if you go through, you'll see that my Instagram changes according to the seasons. So like right now, we're in spring. So these are all spring. And then you'll see we were just in winter. So it will go into a little bit, like you see, right? I don't have to keep explaining.
Well, it's a nice, clean aesthetic. It's cohesive.
Look at my picture of my couple with the snow falling.
Is it down a little farther?
A little bit. Keep going. Right there. You passed it. It's on the left. Keep going. Up a little.
Oh,
right there. Isn't that picture awesome?
That's great.
I love that.
It's still light and airy. It's still got this general aesthetic.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because I learned off camera flash 7 years ago.
So there you go. So we're going to rehash for everybody. MySpace. Make sure you get your start on MySpace.
No, don't start
invest in your business. Really connect with your people. Invest in yourself. So thank you all again for tuning in. Kiamarie, this is really, really, really great. So again, check her out on Instagram. Check out her website. From the B&H family, we thank you. Once we get back to in person, we will have to have you back in for a live.
I would love it. When I went there, it was so fun, and I actually had tangible giveaways, and everybody loved them. So invite me back. I'm coming.
Definitely. Thank you again, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This has been another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space for Kiamarie Stone. I am Derek Fosmeter. You all have a good night.